It's mid-January 2020, and I'm here with Dusty, roundhouse foreman for the Colorado Railroad Museum. He's been working on locomotive number 20, and a complete restoration is in progress. But Dusty can give us a little background of the locomotive, and then we'll take a walk around and just take a good look at what we're doing and what needs to be done. Yep. Dusty?
I'm in front of locomotive 20, which was originally built in 1899 by the Schenectady Locomotive Works for the Florence and Cripple Creek Railroad, which is a narrow gauge railroad that ran between Florence, Colorado and Cripple Creek, Colorado during the gold rush at the turn of the century. It ran on that line until 1912 when a flood washed the line out, and they were going to try to rebuild the line, but after a few years the financial backers said just go ahead and scrap the line. So in 1916 it was then in turn sold to the Rio Grande Southern. It ran for that line until 1951 when that line was abandoned, and it also during that time frame starred as a movie star in the movie Ticket to Tomahawk, which was actually Marilyn Monroe's first on-screen appearance. She wasn't credited in the movie, but that's where she made her film debut. After the abandonment of the Rio Grande Southern in 1951, Rocky Mountain Railroad Club purchased the locomotive from the auction in 1952, and the locomotive was stored at the first incarnation of the Colorado Railroad Museum, which was the Narrow Gauge Motel in Alamosa, Colorado. And it stayed there until the museum was moved to Golden in 1958. Rocky Mountain Railroad Club kept the engine in their possession that whole time until 2006. We had an anonymous donor at that time come forward and said that they wanted to see Rio Grande Southern 20 run again. They put a $250,000 donation, and we had to match that donation, but one of the stipulations was that the ownership of the locomotive had to be transferred to the Colorado Railroad Museum. Rocky Mountain Railroad Club decided that they wanted to see the engine run, so they signed the engine over to us, and in 2006 the engine was sent to Strasburg, Pennsylvania to start the restoration progress. While it was out at Strasburg, they did several sections of frame replacement, a lot of work to the boiler. They replaced the tube sheets, the flues, the firebox was completely rebuilt. They actually replaced a section of the boiler that had been dented during a wreck. So they completely rebuilt the boiler basically. They did a lot of running gear work, a lot of work to the tender frame, and actually put a new stainless steel bottom to the tender tank. And we'll look around here at the engine here in a little bit and show you some of their work that they did. It came home in June of last year, 2019. And we plan to have this locomotive operational sometime this summer of 2020.
Thank you, Dusty. We'll go around here and take a look and see what's been done.
Alrighty. Some of the work that was done by Strasburg, they replaced about half of the engineer side frame rail along the driver sections. They did about a quarter of the frame rail on the fireman side of the locomotive. Due to various wrecks throughout the years, it had been welded back together, but when they welded it back together, it was actually offset and crooked. So they made new frame sections for us and welded the frame back together. They also brazed the driver spokes back together. They had so many cracks in them, when they took them off, they almost fell apart. So they brazed up the driver centers for us. Like I said earlier, the boiler got all new tube sheets, a new firebox, all new tubes. They replaced a section on the fireman side where it has dented in from a rollover, and we'll show you that section of the boiler and the frames that were replaced here in a little bit. Back to here we have a brand new cab that was built, and we have put this on since the locomotive came home in June of last year. We are working on locomotive and tender plumbing. The tender plumbing is 100% finished. The tender itself is probably about 98% done, minus paint at this point. The locomotive, most all the plumbing's been done. We have some internal plumbing in the cab that we have to do for brake plumbing and some of the steam lines for the injectors, but it's coming along nicely. Here you can see the section of the tender that was replaced by Strasburg. This silver part right here is all stainless. The original iron bottom had rotted out. Actually, it was the top is iron, the bottom was just regular sheet steel. That's why it rusted out. We were able to save the upper portion, that's the original iron tender, All the brake rigging on the tender has been gone through, and it's actually been tested. We have set the brakes up on the tender. It's functional. Major stuff left to do at this point is the tender needs paint. The locomotive will need painted after we get the rest of the plumbing done. It was steamed up in Strasburg, so the engine has run under its own power, first time since 1951. So what's next for 20 is we're going to finish up the plumbing. We've got to do some machining for the check valves, finish up the locomotive brake plumbing. Some of the injector lines we're going to finish up as well. Here in the next month or so after that work's done, we will have the state boiler inspector come out. He will witness a hydrostatic test of the boiler, and if he's happy with everything that he sees when we do that, he'll give us our state certification. Strasburg, all the work that they did met FRA specs, the Federal Railroad Administration. So this locomotive will be able to travel. We'll be able to go to Durango and Silverton, the Cumbres and Toltec, because those are all FRA railroads. Here at the museum, we're only under state guidelines. That's all we have to meet, but we wanted to do this locomotive right, so we're going to meet the federal regulations and be able to travel and have some fun with this locomotive.